Have you ever found yourself thinking that you missed the perfect moment? That chance everyone else seems to have embraced while you're still searching for the right path. The feeling of being late might be one of the most painful traps of human consciousness. It whispers that you've fallen behind, that you failed to catch the train at the right time. But what if this delay is actually part of an invisible plan, orchestrated with quantum precision? What if every unexpected turn, every season of waiting, every silence that seemed empty, was holding an essential shift in your evolution process? Sometimes the best opportunity arrives at the moment your soul chooses, not when the world's schedule demands it. There is an energetic dance between you and time that can't be seen on the clock. This dance is aligned with your inner frequency, not with anyone else's agenda. While many watch the ticking hands in anguish, there are those who notice that true time has always been by their side, guiding them exactly where they needed to be, without rush, without frantic pace. When we understand that time is not against us, but with us, our perception expands. We let go of the fear of missing out and begin to listen to the subtle rhythm that leads us. This awareness doesn't change the outside world, but it changes how we live each moment. The "you're too late" dissolves before an inner gaze that knows how to wait with presence and clarity. Today, I invite you to look differently at your life's timeline. The one who seems to have arrived late may actually be more aligned than it appears. Because the true orchestration of your existence doesn't happen in human time zones, it happens within the rhythm of your soul. The feeling of being behind is often born from comparison. You look around, see others achieving things, living dreams, moving forward, and silently conclude that you missed something. But what few realize is that this perception doesn't come from the soul, it comes from the ego. And the ego doesn't understand quantum time. It only knows deadlines, goals, and the fear of being left behind. From the perspective of consciousness, there is no single timeline. Each being walks through a unique frequency, and it's that frequency that determines events, not the calendar. That's why what delays in linear logic may be exactly what saves or prepares you in the energetic realm. The butterfly isn't late because it took longer to leave the cocoon. It's exactly on time for its transformation. Quantum physics teaches us that the observer influences reality. When you look at your life through the lens of "I'm late," you collapse a timeline marked by guilt, haste, and inadequacy. But when you observe with trust, even without visible evidence, you open the door to new possibilities that were previously blocked by the frequency of anxiety. Linear time wants you to believe that everything has an expiration date and that you missed yours. But quantum time shows you that every apparent delay is actually a precise redirection. Sometimes what feels like a long wait is the exact time needed for you to become able to sustain what you asked for. The universe isn't late, it's preparing. The real delay isn't missing an opportunity. It's failing to notice that you're already inside of one, right now, in this moment. The myth of being behind fades when you understand that your path can't be compared to anyone else's, because your soul isn't following a generic script. It's writing a unique story, and every step of it is sacred. The seeker's story is in truth the story of all of us. From an early age, we learn there's an ideal place to arrive, an achievement, a relationship, a version of ourselves that will finally bring peace. And so we start walking with inherited maps, copied goals, and a rush that was never really ours. But with every arrival, something is missing. Satisfaction comes and soon slips away. The seeker changes direction, creates new plans, looks for new teachers. But the more they search outside, the farther what they truly want seems. It's not that they're on the wrong path. It's that they haven't yet realized that the very act of seeking is what keeps them from presence. They chase what they already carry within, but haven't recognized yet. There is beauty in the journey, yes, but there is also exhaustion when the walk comes from lack. The seeker starts to confuse movement with evolution. They believe that the farther they go, the more awakened they will be. And in that process, they forget to ask, where am I going? And why do I need so badly to get there? At some point, the seeker feels tired. They realize that the maps they followed weren't drawn by them. They were projections, conditionings, safe routes to avoid facing the silence. And in that moment, exhausted, directionless, uncertain, they do something radical. They stop. And in stopping, they discover something they had never considered, that perhaps the destination is not outside, but within. The seeker didn't fail. They just needed to get a little lost in order to remember. Every step taken, even those that seemed in vain, prepared the soil for the revelation. The true journey isn't about conquest, but about return. Not a return to the past, but to presence. And in that presence, everything that once seemed distant begins to reveal itself, effortlessly. Time, as we were taught to perceive it, is a straight line, past, present, and future in sequence. Within this logic, it's easy to believe there is a right before and right after, and that if you didn't reach a certain point at the correct time, you're late. But quantum physics reveals another dimension of time. It is not fixed nor linear. It is pliable, influenced by the consciousness that observes it. In linear time, everything seems conditioned by cause and effect. You act, you wait, and then perhaps something changes. But in quantum time, we collapse realities in the present. Not through mechanical action, but through internal state. This means you can experience deep transformation now without needing the external world to change first. Quantum time honors vibration, not chronology. When you access quantum time, you begin to notice synchronicities, shortcuts, unexpected solutions. You realize that what once seemed far away manifests the moment you align internally. What takes years for the mind can take seconds for the field. And what seemed delayed reveals itself as perfectly synchronized with your expansion. This new sense of time requires a different kind of attention. Instead of asking when, you begin to ask, how am I vibrating right now? Because the when no longer depends on the clock, it depends on frequency. By elevating your coherence, you reposition yourself in time, like switching tracks on an invisible train, heading straight toward the reality that was already there, waiting for you. That's why comparing your timeline to others is an illusion. They are in different frequencies, collapsing realities that match the states they're sustaining. There is no too late for those who live beyond the linear clock. There is only a now full of potentials, and in every moment, you can choose to vibrate into a new timeline. Throughout the journey, the seeker believed that each arrival would finally bring peace, a new job, a relationship, a degree, a change of city. And for a while, those milestones seemed to fill the void. But soon after came the uncomfortable silence. Was that it? The promise of fulfillment quickly faded, like an echo that never reaches the mountain's body. This happens because the mind was conditioned to seek outside what can only be accessed within. The external world acts as a reflection, a temporary mirror of the vibrations already present in your field. When you achieve something without having cultivated the internal state that matches it, the void returns. Not because the universe is cruel, but because reality cannot sustain what your consciousness has not yet recognized as familiar. These incomplete arrivals teach us that it is not the destination that heals, but the presence inhabiting it. When you're disconnected from yourself, no place ever feels like enough. The body is there, but the soul keeps wandering. And that is why so many achievements end in frustration, because they were pursued as solutions, not as natural expressions of an already mature vibration. In quantum physics, everything vibrates, and all that vibrates seeks coherence. This means you can only sustain consistently what is in harmony with your internal state. If your frequency is one of lack, for example, even a major financial breakthrough will be unstable, because it doesn't resonate with what your field is truly emitting. The arrival happens, but it doesn't stay. These incomplete arrivals aren't mistakes. They are disguised masters. They reveal that true fulfillment is not in the getting there, but in the being here with full awareness. Every goal achieved without presence is an invitation to turn inward and recognize wholeness was never at the finish line. It was always in the present step, available in the now. There comes a point in the journey when the seeker finds themselves exhausted. No matter how fast they run, plan, or strive, something always seems missing. This is when the body begins to send signals. Insomnia, anxiety, discouragement, a sense of dragging life as if it were a dead weight. The mind collapses under the pressure of expectations, and the soul silently whispers, "Stop." This exhaustion is not an end, but a turning point. It's when the old way of living, rooted in effort, comparison, and urgency, can no longer support the energy of the emerging consciousness. The crisis arises not as punishment, but as a call to surrender. When the seeker reaches this point, there's no more energy to fight time, and that's when something new can be born. To give up here is not weakness, it is maturity. It's when you understand that the path is not about getting there faster, but about walking with more truth. It's in this place of sincere tiredness that the seeker finally drops the maps, stops following others' footprints, and begins to truly listen within. No more masks to uphold, no goals to impress. There is only a body asking for pause and a soul longing for silence. In the quantum field, this moment of exhaustion is also a moment of deep reorganization. When you release control and stop the forced motion, the field gains space to realign. What was once mental noise begins to quiet, and in this often uncomfortable pause, real answers emerge, not as shouts, but as clear whispers. That's why many spiritual awakening stories begin with collapse. Because sometimes only when you've emptied all external attempts can you find internal space for truth to emerge. And truth is almost always simple. You were never late. You were simply being prepared for a subtler, fuller, more authentic way of living. When the seeker finally stops, not out of defeat, but from sacred exhaustion, something unexpected happens. For the first time, he looks around without haste, without filters, without expectations, and in that silence he discovers a presence that had always been with him. Not in the idealized future, nor in the longed-for destination, but right here, in the present moment. What he had been searching for out there begins to reveal itself within. Home, which once seemed like a distant arrival, reveals itself as a quality of consciousness, an inner state of rest where everything makes sense, even without explanation. It's the remembrance that wholeness never depended on circumstances, titles, or external validation. True home is a vibrational field of acceptance where the soul can finally rest in itself. This realization changes everything. The pace slows, but life flows with more precision. Decisions become softer, encounters more meaningful. Not because conditions have changed, but because the way of seeing has. The seeker discovers that he always had access to what he sought, but was too busy trying to get there to notice he was already here. It is in this space that genuine gratitude is born. Not the forced gratitude driven by spiritual obligation, but the kind that naturally arises when you realize the entire journey was necessary. Every detour, every wait, every silence composed the exact melody of your return to center. Home was never a fixed place, it was always a state of remembrance. I already am. And it's at this point that the seeker ceases to be a seeker, not because he gave up, but because he found himself. Not because he stopped evolving, but because he recognized that true evolution doesn't happen by running forward, but by diving deeper within. And so he understands, he was never lost. He was being guided, step by step, back home. Trusting time is not something understood only with the mind. It is an embodied practice, lived through the body, tested in silence, and matured in waiting. It's when you stop demanding immediate proof and begin to notice the subtle signs that everything is aligning, even when nothing seems to be moving. This trust is born when you realize that the soul's time is not the same as the mind's. The mind was trained in the logic of urgency. Do more, get there first, don't waste time. But the soul moves in cycles, pulses in natural rhythms, honors sacred pauses. When you release the comparison to others' timing, you begin to hear the rhythm of your own path. And in that unique sound, what once felt like delay reveals itself as divine precision. The practice of trust begins with small gestures, accepting the rhythm of a slower day, breathing in front of a door that hasn't opened, being grateful even without understanding. Every time you choose trust over force, the field around you reorganizes. Synchronicity becomes clearer, and answers come effortlessly. It is in this surrender that a new form of presence is born. A presence that doesn't watch the clock but listens to the moment. That doesn't demand guarantees but offers availability. That doesn't try to control time but becomes part of it. And so you stop living against the flow and begin to dance with it. And the dance, even in silence, is deeply creative. And little by little, anxiety gives way to trust. You no longer ask if you're late because you realize that every second is part of the invisible construction of what is coming. Time becomes an ally, not an enemy. And you discover that, by trusting the timing of life, life begins to trust you more. Most people believe that evolving requires constant motion, intense effort, a never-ending search for something beyond. But in the quantum reality, true evolution happens in the exact moment you deeply accept where you are. This acceptance is not stagnation, it is vibrational maturity. It's when the being understands that hurry is a noise that prevents the natural blooming of transformation. The paradox is this: the more you relax into the now, the faster the future approaches. Not because you pulled it in with force, but because you became coherent with it. When your inner field stops vibrating urgency, it opens space for the highest possibilities to reveal themselves. Life then no longer feels like a maze. It becomes a clear mirror, reflecting your peace as direction. Evolution is not a place you go to. It is a state that reveals itself when the ego becomes silent. And the ego only quiets when it feels safe. That safety is born from surrender, from the trust that everything that needs to come will come. At the right time, in the right way, without you needing to prove anything to anyone. And that trust is the fertile ground where the new can finally take root. The masters, the sages, those who radiate serenity, they are not that way because they control everything. They are that way because they trusted so deeply that they became one with the timing of life. They understood that haste is born from the illusion of separation, and that when you are aligned with the now, there are no delays, no losses, only cycles in full bloom. This is the true leap, not running faster but stopping the run, not grasping more but recognizing that the essential is already here. Evolution doesn't shout, doesn't push, doesn't demand. It whispers sweetly, you are already moving beyond, precisely because you stopped running from yourself. When you change internally, the entire universe changes with you. It might sound exaggerated, but this is the foundation of quantum physics. Everything is interconnected. Your energy field influences and resonates with the collective field. So, every time you let go of the rush and trust your own timing, you're silently sending out a vibrational permission for others to do the same. This phenomenon is known as the quantum ripple effect, an individual transformation that, when it finds resonance in similar frequencies, creates waves of change in other consciousnesses. No effort, no preaching, no need to convince anyone. Just by being, you become a coherent field that inspires, calms, and reorganizes everything around you. Your peace becomes a compass for those still lost in urgency. Even without words, your presence starts to communicate. It's okay right here where I am. And for a world addicted to rushing, that is revolutionary. It's like turning on a soft light in a room where everyone was feeling around in the dark. You don't point the way, you are the way. This influence doesn't need a stage. It happens in the simplest relationships, with a child, a partner, a colleague, even a stranger on the street. When your system is in coherence with the present, you transmit silent confidence. And confidence is the most transformative language that exists. It touches the body directly, without needing to go through the mind. That's why your choice to trust the timing of life is never just about you. It's a vibrational contribution to the whole of human consciousness. With every moment that you breathe slower, judge less, compare less, you're clearing the field for everyone. The timing of your spirit is sacred, and when you honor that, the entire world feels it. After so many journeys, maps, expectations, and attempts to get there, the seeker finally stopped. Not out of defeat, but out of exhaustion from the search itself. And it was in that exact moment, without searching for anything, that something silent emerged. The peace he longed for wasn't hidden in a distant destination. It was pulsing in the now, in the exact place where his feet were resting. He understood, with a kind of wisdom that doesn't come from the mind, home was never a final destination. It was a state of being, a field of presence that had always been available, but was hidden beneath the anxiety of becoming something else. As the seeker silenced his movement, he heard what the universe had been whispering all along: you've already arrived. This revelation didn't erase his story. On the contrary, it gave meaning to every apparent detour, loss, or mistake. He saw that nothing had been in vain. Every bend off the path was, in truth, the path in disguise. The time of waiting wasn't wasted. It was maturation. Hurry would never have allowed the listening that silence taught. Now he no longer runs to find the meaning of life. He walks with it. The difference is subtle but profound. There is no more urgency, no fear of falling behind, only a deep respect for the soul's timing, for the rhythm of his own journey. The search became presence. The destination became consciousness. And returning to the world with this new awareness, he no longer tries to teach, convince, or prove anything. He simply lives, and his life by itself emanates direction. Because the seeker's true revelation is this: home was never a place, but a state of coherence between who you are and what you live. And in that state, you are never late. You are not late. You never were. The very idea of being out of the right time is born from comparison to someone else's timeline. But your soul has its own rhythm, its own beat, its own season to bloom. What once seemed like delay was in truth silent preparation. Every pause was a pause to root. Life isn't punishing you with delays. It is aligning you with what truly resonates with who you're becoming. That which seemed too far to reach might have simply been waiting for you to become the one who could sustain that reality with presence and maturity. All visible movement is born from invisible stillness. The sprout only breaks through the earth after gathering great force in the dark. Likewise, your blooming can only happen after you honor the space of silence, pause, and apparent stagnation as part of the process. Nothing was in vain. Everything had a purpose. So the next time you think you're falling behind, take a deep breath, return to the now. And remember, the soul's timing is not linear. The miracle can happen in a single instant of surrender. Your perfect moment is not tomorrow nor yesterday. It's the exact point of presence where you allow yourself to trust. Write in the comments, "I am exactly where I need to be." Not as a pretty phrase, but as an energetic seal, a vibrational anchor in the quantum field, because you're not someone running after life, you are life, and life is never late.